Hello, bonjour, Alberta. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak français in Alberta? And those numbers just keep on growing? Oui, oui, c'est vrai, it's true. And thanks to Shaw TV Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about special people, places, events, and activities happening right here in this great province, in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English, and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Restez à l'écoute.
Hello, bonjour, Alberta, and welcome once again to our show. My name is Anne Boiteau, and tonight I have the pleasure to talk with Kirsten Evenden, Executive Director, and Trisha Carleton, Curator, both ladies from the Lougheed House. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Anne.
So maybe we'll start with you, Kirsten. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what, if you're not from Calgary, brought you to Calgary.
Sure. I have been working in museums and galleries and historic sites since the early 1990s. And I'm originally from Vancouver and have had a long kind of love affair with galleries and art and history for a long time. And when I finished my master's in art history, I was wondering what to do next. And I actually decided to pursue working in a place where I could really talk to lots of people about the things I cared about: artists, community, history. So I pursued a diploma in arts administration and then pursued work in the field. And in those days, like today, I think, quite often when you want to get experience, you do an apprenticeship or you do a kind of entry-level position, or I had the good fortune to have an internship. And I was living in Vancouver, and the internship I was offered was at the Glenbow Museum here in Calgary in Alberta.
Ah, okay.
So way back in the early 1990s, I came to Alberta for what I thought was a 3-month internship. So I've worked in museums on a contractual basis, and at the Glenbow I worked for a long time. And I've done some curatorial work in galleries too. And about 3 years ago, I decided to pursue other opportunities. And the idea of working in a historic site really appealed to me. Because one thing that's interesting about working in a place that is historical and is treasured for being, historically important, is that it's like you're working inside the museum artifact itself.
Yes.
And so that's when I go to work every day, I get to work inside history, which is kind of exciting.
Yes. Different from the Glenbow, for example.
Yes.
Which was very new as a building.
It was. So the objects and the art were things you saw and looked at. But for me, working in these places is always about the people. So these collections, these treasures, these historical places are about the community coming together and having a dialogue and learning from each other. And for me, that's what kind of keeps me coming back to this field. And that's, I think, kind of what we offer the community. So that's sort of how I got into this business.
And for you, Trisha?
Well, I grew up in central Alberta near a little town called Blackfalds. And I guess what originally brought me to Calgary was doing my undergraduate degree at the U of C. And then later on, I did a master's in museum studies by distance from University of Leicester. And I actually did my master's dissertation on built heritage in the Beltline community with a case study focus on Lougheed House. So it was very...
So she had to work at Lougheed.
Yeah, it's very serendipitous when the position came up a few years later, and I was fortunate enough to get it. I've been there just 1 year now. And yeah, I guess I also love kind of the people aspect of working in museums and being able to share Alberta's history with people and get them engaged and excited about history and learning something new.
Yes, and you're the curator.
Yes.
So what does a curator do exactly?
What does a curator not do? Primarily, the job of a curator is, I guess, primarily research is kind of the basis of everything a curator does. So researching the collections, researching for exhibits. And so my job at Lougheed House mostly revolves around curating our temporary exhibits, looking after the permanent spaces of the house as well, and collections management, so looking after the artifacts, taking new acquisitions, and the research, like I said.
So, for example, you worked on this project?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah, so our current exhibit that's up until January 31st is Proudly They Served. It's about the Canadian Women's Army Corps in World War II. And the reason we chose to do this topic is because Lougheed House served as a barracks for the Canadian Women's Army Corps during World War II. So right here in Calgary, the house was being used as a place where the women were stationed. Usually the women who were stationed there worked at the military district headquarters that was downtown, so it was a convenient location for them to get to work. And yeah, the house itself served more as kind of a mess halls where they went for their meals, for social activities, and there were hutments built on the property, a kind of dormitory style where they stayed. And it was really exciting. We were able to connect with some veterans in Calgary that are still around from Canadian Women's Army Corps, and some that are actually stationed at Lougheed House. So that was really exciting, you know, to talk to them and hear about their experiences and have some of their uniforms and things as part of the exhibit.
Oh, very interesting. And tell me, how big is the Lougheed House?
It's about 10,000 square feet.
Oh, pretty big.
So when it was built in 1891, it was an enormous mansion. It was called one of the bigger homes, most palatial homes in the Northwest in Canada at the time. You have to remember, 1891, Calgary was about 4,000 people, and it was still called a tent city. It was still the Wild West out here.
Yeah.
So they raised their 6 children, the Lougheeds did there. Senator and Lady Lougheed, who are the former Premier Peter Lougheed's grandparents.
Okay.
So that's the family connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And why did they need something that big?
Well, they were a pretty important family for kind of the beginnings of Calgary and Alberta. So, you know, James Lougheed came out from Toronto. He was trained as a lawyer. And then through his connection with Isabella, who was a Hardesty, which was a very prominent fur trading family with the Hudson's Bay Company, he ended up becoming the solicitor for the Hudson's Bay Company, also for the Canadian Pacific Railway. And through that, he also bought up a lot of real estate around the railroad. So he was a very, you know, prominent figure in the early formings of Calgary. And then one of Isabella's uncles, Lord Strathcona, when he passed away, his senator position was passed on to James, and that's how he became senator. So then he was, you know, back and forth between Calgary and Ottawa. And they were also just really involved in the community. Like Lady Isabella was involved with things like the Victoria Order of Nurses and a lot of sort of community groups that, you know, built things, you know, involved with the first library in Alberta being built just down the street from them, the Central Library. So there's so much history to tell. There's connections to so many things.
Yes. And you're going to be celebrating 125 years next year?
Yes, next year. So 2016 marks the 125th anniversary of when the house was built. And that's 1891. So if you imagine today, if you know Calgary, the Beltline that we refer to is really you'd call an inner city neighborhood today. And it's just north of 17th Avenue. And in those days, it was pretty much was it actually the outskirts of the city? It was
Yeah,
pretty
it
much
was
the
on
outskirts of the
Bald
city.
Prairie was where the house was built.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they were sort of moving to the suburbs in contemporary terms.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, so next year we plan to celebrate throughout the year with a whole bunch of different celebrations. And one of the fun things we're planning to do actually is early in their tenure in the house, the Lougheeds had a public open house. And they invited musicians and the community to celebrate with them, including, we think, an early band of the Calgary firefighters. I think that's what we've determined, that they were present playing on that night. So we're going to recreate that night. Now, we haven't asked the firefighters band yet. We have to work on that.
The band still exists.
Maybe they're
Have to be
listening.
into
Yes. But yeah, we want to kind of recreate the mood. I mean, the thing with the Lougheeds is they were very supportive of a lot of artists and of community. And so we want to make the place, you know, a real gathering place next year. And this will be one of the things we do, but we also plan a big summer celebration in the gardens, which are just shy of actually 3 acres, right in the center of the city. And that's the complete estate as it would have been then.
Yeah.
It's been reconfigured back. So yeah, that'll be really exciting.
And closer to now, Christmas is coming up.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Christmas?
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, every year we do, we call it Christmas all through the house. So starting late November, we bring in designers and furniture companies, and they design and furnish out the entire main floor of the house. And they do a different theme every year. So there's tons of Christmas trees, decorations, beautiful settings to see. And then we run special events throughout with the Christmas season.
So what's the theme this year?
I don't, do we have
Well,
it for sure?
it's really a classic kind of Victorian Christmas that we're going for this year. So real turn of the century, early Edwardian flair. So we always talk to the designers ahead of time about some of the ideas they're thinking of. And we often do, Trisha mentioned, special Christmas programs. So this year, we're bringing in a raconteur, an actor, who will perform Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol himself, accompanied by a harpist. And he's a local actor. And so that'll be on December 3rd. So there's always sort of something new to see at the house. And what's fun is because it is, it's a Victorian house that was made with public events in those days in mind. I mean, you have to think there was no Grand Theatre, there was no Jubilee, and in fact the Lougheeds built the Grand Theatre at the Lougheed building back in the day. And so this house was built to be a place and a space where people came together, where you would hear music, you would socialize, and in fact a number of significant dignitaries, when they came through town, would actually be entertained by the Lougheeds at the house. The Duke and Duchess of Connaught, then the Governor General of Canada, Prince of Wales, Edward Prince of Wales came and spent an evening with them. So it is a kind of a significant community gathering place that we still kind of maintain that tradition today. And so all through Christmas there'll be singing and music, and there's always things to do and
sounds like
see.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, ladies,
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
joining
You're
us
welcome.
tonight.
Yeah.
And for all those of you out there, we will continue en français.